A brick wall, bro.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, what's going on, party people in the place to be? I go by the name of the BK Apologist, transmitting live and direct. New York is the city, Brooklyn is the borough. What's good? What's popping, everybody? Thank you for waiting. We're in the building.
In the building.
I gotta mute that real quick. All right. Yeah, so thank you so much for holding tight. We're in the building. You know, we're going to continue in our deep dive analysis of the debate of the year. I just want to thank Adam Coleman just right off the bat for allowing me to be a part of this amazing event and just having this opportunity for us to do our ESPN hot take deep analysis. You know, we've done 3 rounds. We've went back and forth to our individual channels, and now we're going to invest upon the Q&A session. And to tag along with us is somebody who posed an amazing question during the debate. So I had to have him here personally so we can get his take on that situation. Of course, I'm talking about the indelible, the incomparable Vocab Malone. What's good, sir?
Hey, what's up? I'm glad to be here. BK Apologist. Everybody, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel, BK Apologist.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And of course, we got Mr. Coleman. Please introduce yourself, sir.
What's going on, man? It's your hometown hero, the real Adam Coleman. And I just want to say, you know, what's up to my man, Vocab Malone. I'm glad we can have you on, man. I mean, it's good. I'm hoping that, yeah, as a result of you coming on here, you'll be able to get some subscribers, man. I appreciate, you know, we're trying to help you out, bro. You know what I mean?
I'm trying to come up, man. I'm trying to come up. That's why I'm rocking Alfredo's shirt tonight.
Yes, sir. That's what's up. That's a nice plug. I appreciate that. So so like we were saying, we're talking about now. We've covered the 3 rounds. You know, it was pretty intensive. You know, we've done some amazing research. We found some amazing things. I've definitely learned a lot from Adam. You know, maybe he learned a couple things from me. I'm not sure, but you know what I mean. So but right now, let's just, so how did you guys feel about the Q&A session? Because you guys were definitely there in attendance. What's some of your first thoughts about that?
One of my favorite parts, people were doing their homework and got to issues that actually never came up in the debate. Not to fault anybody, they were pretty fundamental, like, hey, Jabari, what do you actually worship? So and it's like, wait, what? Oh, rewind that. Oh, we don't have any more time to talk about that. Oh man, you know. So I love that Q&A. That audience, it was just this one dude brought all these books. He was just ready to go. He probably could ask 20 questions. So that was one of my favorite parts. I loved it.
That's great. That's great. How about you?
Wait, man. I was actually looking forward to the Q&A more than the other sections, believe it or not.
Oh, we could tell. We could tell. We could definitely tell, bro.
Because like for me, I just like stuff messy, man. I just like the notion of, you know, you being in a setting and kind of having to be on your toes, you know, and you never know what's going to happen in the Q&A. Like the presentations are cool because you're just kind of going back and forth on, you know, what you have prepared. But then anything can happen in the Q&A. So I just kind of like that vibe, you know. So I was looking forward to it.
Cool.
And I had my other reasons as well, obviously, but you know.
Right. Now you guys were very like Vocab. Like, was that something you was planning on, or it just the spirit just led you to?
Yeah, no, I didn't. I felt like, you know, I'm gonna stay out of it. Basically, that was actually how I kind of thought or felt. What I mean is stay out of it. Like, I know people are gonna have better questions. You know, I know people here are like, you know, really invested in this. Adam's beside me. I'm gonna make sure he gets to say something. You know, I was just like not really, you know, but he kept on saying certain things. And I was like, man. And so I was like, you know, I've read up on some of this, what he's talking about that didn't really get touched because a lot got brought up, right? And I was like, let me revisit this while I'm waiting and see if it kind of slows down if I should ask a question. And I already knew what it was going to be generally about, was the imperialistic tendencies of Egypt and what could be described as bigoted views of other peoples, right? Especially darker Africans. You know, I'm not saying that's all there was to it. It's a complex issue, as we'll see.
Right.
But it's not like that's not part of it. And I doubt that a lot of these Kemet guys would have the subtleties if it was not them being the ones who were like, hey, why'd you say this about your people, your neighbors down there? Why was you saying that? You know, I don't think they would have the subtlety or the nuance if it was someone else besides them, you know. And so I was like, I'm going to bring this out because he's painting this picture of Kemet that is not really historically accurate. And I think I can ask one question to help everybody see, oh, maybe Jabari's presentation of Kemet is being seen through rose-colored glasses, as they say. He had a Pollyannish view of Kemet, and I just wanted to kind of put a little crack in that kind of way that that Cybertruck got that little crack in it. On it, you know, I want to do that right from the stage. So, anyways,
that was more than a crack. That was like a hairline fracture. Absolutely. But before we even get to that particular question, I know there's another question that Adam wanted to highlight before we get into that. So I'm going to give it up to Mr. Coleman to bring us up to speed about that.
Okay, cool. So you want me to, am I going to the video? Is that what you want to do? Or?
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, let me share my screen. All right. And
I think he wants you to talk about misogyny.
Yeah, because I was going to play the question and my computer's wigging out.
It's all good.
Oh, here we go. All right, actually, it's my fault. Never the computer's fault. If there's any doubt between me and the computer, it's always the computer's fault.
Of course.
Y'all see that? Am I sharing?
Yeah. Okay. Where's the vocab, man? There he goes. All right, great. Yeah, we're good.
All right, so I guess I'll go ahead and start out with this question here. See what's popping.
Now, when you raise your hand, I'm gonna point to you and you ask your question. So I'm gonna go bat out. First, this sister right here.
Hey, let me just pause it right quick. There's nothing substantive to say yet. I just want to say, like, yo, Eric Mason has to be like the blackest pastor in America, yo. I'm not talking about, I mean, as far as culturally speaking.
Bat out.
Bat out.
He had the boy state, you know what I'm saying, rocking it, you know what I mean?
He had the African medallion. You know
yeah, you can't see it right here, but he's got the African medallion. No, he's got to be like the culturally blackest pastor in America today. He has to be, yo.
Somebody could sample that and make a little bass line, you know, bat out.
All right, let me get it.
And in the Bible, it states that everything God made is good. He made man, he made woman. That's very good. My question in your house, since you guys are definitely equal, who has the final say?
This is what I'm referring to. There is no final say. Maybe you think that's messy, because I can't say, why are you raising your voice in my house? I don't know. I don't get to say that. She is my equal. And by the way, you should know that is Dr. Anika Daniels Osaze. She might actually be better than me. When I was a young husband, there were times when she would say, well, listen, I'm going to handle this part of the finances. I'm going to do this. I was like, no, I'm the man. I got to do that. And then at the end, I would say, how come I don't have any money left and I have so much more to do in the month? Maybe on the sneak tip. Now I'm talking to y'all because I'm from home and you from Philly, right? Let me pretend that she could do it because I said she could do it. She never had that problem. This sister here can make $1 out of 15 cents. Why should I have the final say if she is more talented than me in some areas? We have to come to an agreement. There is no final say. That is a relationship. That is my aunt. So I get that question a lot. And I think that people think that it makes it more difficult, but actually it makes it easier because now we have to build a stronger relationship. So when she says something, sometimes she don't even have to say everything she needs to say because we built enough of a relationship that I understand that she is excellent in certain areas and she understands I'm excellent in other areas. We are partners. And if I had time, I'd show you some images, because you'll see gigantic images of Kemetic kings and queens sitting on a throne together with their eyes meeting. Because the commentary is, this woman, I'm the most powerful man in the world. This woman is my equal. That's how we do it.
Cool. Before we go to the next question, I think she was asking not an equality question, but a functionality question. But I'm gonna go to the next one, because I think that's what she was asking. Yes.
What would be? All right. So that kind of touches on. I'm trying to get off the screen here. That kind of touches on the whole male-female thing. I'm gonna let y'all start off with it, but that's kind of what I wanted to bring. There was a couple of different questions that came up during the Q&A that kind of dealt with the relation between male and female. And prior to this right here, he had basically made a number of statements, you know what I'm saying, basically alleging that Christianity is misogynistic and things of that nature. So, you know, I just wanted to kind of, you know, maybe just lob that to the group and, you know, see, you know, kind of rock out on, you know, just kind of get your perspective on it real quick. And now I see that you've changed the format of the video, so now people can see all the homeschooling stuff behind me and whatnot. You know, so
I didn't even do that. It did it automatically when you stop sharing. Yeah. Sorry about that. It just happened. You're a parent, man. Be proud. It's okay. You're a dad.
It's a parent. You're a parent.
Wah. So, but Mr. Vocab, if you can chime in on that particular question there that was given to him.
Yeah, Jabari likes this claim. In fact, he has a clever way he frames it. When I say this claim, that Christianity is misogynistic because it's laden with the misogynistic anti-woman tendencies of the Bible as the foundation. He likes this claim because we heard him bring it up with Brother Berean. It was something that kind of came out of nowhere, and he was loved beyond. And then the way he frames it is, hey, everybody, you know, Christianity is a copycat with some modifications of ancient Kemet. And one of those modifications is you guys hate women and we don't. So he has a clever way he actually ties it into his copycat. I don't know if you guys heard him when he actually said that. Let me tell you one way it's not a copycat, and basically said, because you guys don't like women, you have a problem with women in your religion, right? And so Jabari likes this. He's fond of it. A few things about it. One, Jabari, regardless of what you and your wife do in your house, I'm glad it works out. I'm glad she's talented at finances. That's good. But whatever you do in your house, how is it directly derived from some ancient Kemetic principle? What is the Kemetic principle you're drawing upon to say, here's how I run my house? This may just be dating advice, marital advice with Brother Jabari time right now. Meaning that's fine. He does that. That's good. But explain to us directly how it directly relates to some immutable principle within ancient Kemet. Now, I heard him say one thing about images where the eyes meet together and they're looking at each other eye to eye. Is that it? I mean, I could probably, you know, oh man. You could probably find some porno movies with covers where the men and women are looking directly into their eyes. I don't know what that means. You know, I don't think that really, I mean, I know what he's trying to do. I respect this sentiment. I really do. But here's my point by saying all that in all seriousness. Somebody asks me, I go to Genesis 1:26. I go to Genesis 2. It says both male and female were created in the image of God. Okay. There's an equality in their ontology from jump right there. Boom. Equality of ontology. Okay. Meaning who they are in their being. Bam. From jump. Imago Dei can never, ever be looked over in a situation. Ancient Kemet has no situation like that. They've got like 5 or 6 origin myths about how everything came into being. In a number of them, the gods cry and form humans. So it's literally not even a purpose thing. It's not even a purposeful thing in the first place. And in one of them, kind of male deity brings forth a male and female couple who then reproduces. So everything came out of a male there in that situation. It just, you got lots of problems. They don't have any grounding or foundation for anything. And here's the other thing the Kemet folks don't tell you. Yes, the elite women had more privileges than a lot of other ancient Near Eastern women at that time. Within ancient Kemet, that does seem to be true. However, it's not true with the lower and middle class women. Like a lot of things, Egypt society is a society built for and centered around the elites, and the elite women got some privileges, but they didn't get all the privileges, because you still had, who was the one pharaoh lady who had to wear a beard just to be the pharaoh? You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
yeah, she had to wear the little beard head. Just now, you guys know more of the details than I do on that. I will admit that, but it seems like it had to be like, hey, yo, I'm gonna be pharaoh, but I gotta kind of look like I'm a man and adopt masculine things. So you see what I'm saying? If Hillary Clinton would have run the, president of the United States, nobody would say, hey, Hillary, you need to wear a beard, right? You know what I'm saying? Pull a Charlie Chaplin or whatever. Nobody's going to say that. So I'm just saying that Jabari has this way he frames it and all that, and it is what it is. But I don't see it foundational in his religion, number one. Number two, we've got something foundational within our text. Also, to the elite women, yes. And then, honestly, he doesn't even have any moral basis to critique misogyny anyway, because he has no real moral foundation within Kemet to pull from the resource to say this misogyny, if that's how he's going to call it, is objectively wrong. I don't actually see that he has a moral foundation within Kemet moral structure to do that in the first place. Let me stop.
Right. Because we'll go further on that later. But I mean, to your point, though, matter of fact, if I can share my screen, is that cool? Right?
Yes, please, definitely. Go for it.
Name one Jewish queen. Esther, the guy in here. Yeah, you can even say Jezebel. Sorry, I see the live stream. Sorry, go ahead.
It's all good. It's all good.
Oh, I gotta switch over to live. So I want to check that out. I'm saying, or maybe even Deborah, right? I mean, she wasn't the queen, but she would have been a judge. She had some authority.
She definitely led Israel. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
well, I mean, there was wicked queens too. We forget Jezebel was a strong power, or despite whatever flaw she has, she was certainly a strong female leader. Absolutely. Jezebel was kind of the one with the pants on in that relationship with Ahab. But I mean, just saying.
Yeah. Let me see. Is this coming through?
Yeah, hold on. Let me see. Yep, there we go.
All right, cool. So actually, okay, you spoke to some of this already, which where I was going to go to begin with. But to your point about the Imago Dei, you use the word ontology, right? That's and right. Yeah, I wanted to kind of go. Let me expand a little bit. Is that good? Can y'all see that?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, cool. So actually, I'm going to throw in another word. So ontology, as you said, deals with just the nature of like what something is. You know what I'm saying? Like, what is that thing? And so with both male and females, from a biblical text, Genesis 1:26 and 27, they're made in the image of God. They got equal ontology. They're the same kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? But there's another word we can throw in here too, right? Another ology word, another philosophy word. It's axiology. So axiology is the study of the nature of types, the nature, types, and criteria of values and the value judgments, especially in ethics. So when you're dealing with philosophy, axiology has to do with the value of things, what they're worth. Okay. Now, when it comes to actually, Eric Mason threw in another word too. He kind of maybe tried to explain the question that the lady was asking in the first place. With the word function, which is basically an action or something like that the person performs. Now, I said all that to say is that I think that what happens when people like Jabari are trying to basically disparage Christianity, they want to diss Christianity on the grounds of it being misogynistic, so on and so forth. What you see all the time is they blur the lines between ontology, axiology, and function. Okay. Now, the thing is, from the biblical standpoint, one's value, that axiology, is not determined. I'm saying, and their ontology is not determined by their function. You see what I'm saying? So what I'm worth is not tied to what it is that I can do or the role that I play. You see what I'm saying? That's not how biblical the biblical perspective of value is stated in the scripture. It goes back to us being made in the image of God. So I use it as an example. Like, if you got an employer and employee, if I'm at the job, then my employer has a higher rank than I do, but they're not more human than I am. You see what I'm saying? They may have more power within a particular context. I'm saying in terms of the roles they were fulfilling, that function as being the employer and I'm the employee, but they're not more human than I am. They can't just go, come to work one day and just murk me for no reason. I'm saying, they'll be like, all right, well, I got more rank than you, so I can just do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a difference between ontology and axiology. Axiology meaning, value. And again, neither ontology or axiology are determined by function. You know what I'm saying? And so these are the kind of things, now, like I said, let me just say this, kind of back up for a second. So for those who are kind of just joining us for this breakdown, if this is your first time, we're doing a deep dive here. You know what I'm saying? So, this is for those who've been along for the ride, they're kind of accustomed to us, throwing in these kind of words and details. But that's what this series is all about. So, just wanted to kind of, throw that out there. But, so likewise in a marriage, even though we have different functions, even though we have different roles, even though we're different in terms of gender, we're, our value is still not, lessened or heightened by our function. I mean, so the husband in the home, even though, it is the case that, the Bible states that the husband is, the head of the wife, and there's the hierarchy within the home, those, that hierarchy or that function doesn't determine that, okay, therefore the woman is less valuable or therefore the man is more valuable. That's not the biblical framework. I'm saying the biblical framework is that we're both made in the image of God, and based upon that, we have the same value. Last thing I want to say about it real quick, just as by way of analogy, again, when we're talking about where we're coming from a Christian standpoint, just to kind of illustrate, again, even looking at the Trinity, right? You have the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Now, the Son, during his earthly ministry, this is more so for Christians, Commanders watching probably wouldn't care, but even for Christians during his earthly ministry, the Son submitted himself to the Father. So in terms of his role, in terms of his function, he submitted himself to the Father. But that didn't make Jesus, the Son, less valuable or less God. You know what I'm saying? It didn't make him less God. Ontologically, Jesus was never at any point less God. I'm saying, but in terms of his function, he submitted himself to the Father. So again, you have a distinction between function, and ontology, and one is, and the function doesn't determine ontology. If anything, you can say it might be the other way around. So I just kind of wanted to. Last point: equality. I'm saying this is another thing that I think that comedics, when they're making these critiques, they conflate the two. Equality isn't and sameness are two different concepts. I'm saying just because you could have two things that are different and yet they can be equal. And so so again, even though men and women are different in a number of ways, both physically and otherwise, that doesn't mean they're not equal. And so when I hear Jabari and people like that making these claims, I'm saying, I think that they're conflating this notion of equality and sameness, and at the same time not taking into account the distinction between ontology, axiology, and function. Yeah.
Cool. I mean, a very simple thing that not only him, but many people in that particular community do is they like to harp on the word submission, right? And it's like, wives have to submit to their husbands, but they never read the verse prior to that where it says both parties are to submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. And then the rest of the passage goes on how the husband and wife, how are they supposed to submit to one another, right? And there's a difference in that, but they both need to submit to one another in reverence to Christ. They never want to read that verse preceding that. Right. In fact, a lot of Christians don't want to read that verse either, because unfortunately, we have a lot of ego-driven men who like the idea of women submitting. It's like, yeah, that's true, but you submit as well. And you could kind of argue that your role of submission is definitely more harsh because you have to be like Christ was to the church. And we all know what Christ had to do in order for the church to be the church, right? So just want to add that right there. So,
and, one other thing I bring up, if I could.
Yes.
It's an interesting book review. There's an interesting interview with an author on National Geographic, and it's a book called When Women Ruled the World. It's about 6 queens of Egypt. This came out December 2018, the little interview. You can look at the book. It's by Kara Cooney. And the interviewer asked 2 questions. I just want to show the author's answer to this. Now, the author here is saying we can learn from the ancient Egyptians about the women rulers. So this is like a positive promotion of Egyptian female power, especially in the role of rulership. Even then, though, I want you to hear what the author says in response to 2 different questions. One is, what made the ancient Egyptians different, is what the question is. And the author of a book says this: these women in ancient Egypt were serving a patriarchy in a context of social inequality. That's in a whole sentence you can read. But now, especially when I show you this. This is the question. You stress that though these women were allowed to rule, their power was a short-term illusion. They're usually erased from the historical record too, weren't they? Why was that? Listen to this answer. The women were placeholders for a much larger scheme of power that is dependent on masculinity. They were there to make sure the next male in line could step into the power circle. And now look at this. As soon as it can go back to the patriarchal system, she is removed. So I just want to bring that out. The point is not that we're hating on Egypt. It's not like that. We're just saying the way Jabari presents it is sort of a 21st century Western European influence view of these issues, in my opinion. Actually, that's what I think. And it's not exactly the historical record. And I think that should be taken into account. Thank you.
Actually, that's interesting you said that, because now it kind of jarred. It was kind of taking me in a different direction too with that. So one thing that Jabari said a couple times is that he felt frustrated with, I want to say, one or two of the questioners and definitely Ms. Bantu, in terms of not taking into account the entire 3,000-year history of Egypt. And there was a number of times where he made an issue of that, right? Now, I would say that when with respect to claims that he makes about Egypt, I would suggest that he's doing the same thing. He's taking an instance in which, maybe let's say, for example, like the thing with the statues where they're looking at each other eye to eye, right? Okay, so let's say that he's taking that as an instance to say that, well, the Egyptians looked at male and females being equal. Well, why should he take that one instance or that one set of statues or however many set of statues and apply that to the entirety of Egyptian history? Because, like BK Abad just said, you also have the instance of Hatshepsut, where she's having to put on the beard to appear male. To my knowledge, I don't know of any pharaoh that was depicted with breasts or feminine features.
Nope.
You know what I'm saying? To have you kind of the vice versa of that. So it seems like she's feeling some pressure or senses some need to take on masculinity. It wasn't enough for her to be a woman and occupy that space. She had to take on that masculine form, right? So why couldn't I look at that and be like, okay, well, the Egyptians believe that, male is to be dominant and women are to conform to that maleness. So now you got two different instances. Why should he take, his example to be the blanket, this is the way the Egyptians did things? I mean, for all he knows, he can say, well, the Egyptians, maybe they did different stuff at different times. How can you make universal statements about what the Egyptians did, what Kemet did, when clearly why not say they believe different things over that 3 millennia or whatever? You know what I'm saying? So going back to your point, how can he make an objective claim about what ought to be the case between men and women, where it seems to me you got different conflicting instances in terms that one, taking it for granted what he's saying, one agrees with his perspective and one doesn't. And how does he differ between the two in terms of which should be adhered to?
And shout out to MJ Jackson in the chat, Adam. He says that in those images that the female is always embracing the male and the male does not reciprocate the action. And MJ knows what he's talking about. So that's fascinating, actually.
MJ. All right.
And also, I mean, to your point earlier, Vocab, about him not making a systematic theological connection between his marriage and the worldview that he proposes. But, in earlier rounds, we did see exactly what the worldview does when it comes to women. We've talked about the sacred prostitutes of Amun, that's definitely a part of their religion. Now, of course, Israel partaked in that as well, but that's when they strayed from their religion. When they partaked in it, they stayed in their religion. We also talked about how in order for a woman to go into the afterlife, she actually had to become gender fluid in the Perep Emheru, in the Book of the Dead. She had to temporarily become a man because in their worldview, only the male deities were creators, not the goddesses. So we see that very clearly in your worldview. Women are not held in high regard at all. So
that's fascinating what you just said. Because if you guys ever read at the end of the Gospel of Thomas, because if you guys know the Gospel of Thomas, which is a fraudulent gospel, Thomas was dead by the time it came out. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like in that Peter's like, hey, what about Mary over here? How's she going to get into heaven? And you would think Jesus would be like, give some kind of Jesus-like answer in the gospel. It's a Gnostic influenced document. And Jesus says, Do not worry about Mary. I will make her male like you so that she can get into the kingdom.
In that case, they definitely plagiarized from ancient Kemet. In that case,
I guess so. Yeah. Hey, Christianity ripped off ancient Kemet. Proof right here. Jabari won.
No, it's funny because so now you got the similarity between a Gnostic text, you know what I'm saying, and with the Kemetic belief. So if anything, that kind of goes to Bantu's point, right? You know what I'm saying? There's fluidity between the Kemetic beliefs in the 1st century and what was going on in Greek and Rome at the time. You know what I mean? So first or 2nd century, I'll say, well, I guess it'd be 2nd century for the Gospel of Thomas. But yeah, man. I mean, so that's what I'm saying. So there's all these holes that I think, and see, this is the beauty, I think, of doing these breakdowns, because I think for so long, man. I mean, and I'm talking about for like a minute, like these guys never have to defend their worldview. They're constantly taking shots at Christianity. We constantly have to hear about Constantine, slavery, and all this kind of stuff. And they're constantly taking jabs. But it's never a situation where they're putting their own views on the table to be critiqued, to be broken down, and for them to have to defend it. And I think that they just we just let them off the hook. I'm saying all too often, man. So I think that's why it's so dope to be doing these breakdowns where we can say, hey, you know what? Hey, this is something y'all got to account for. This something, and so actually, I think about going back to something you said, vocab, about their theology. If I'm Jabari, what I would argue would be that they teach, or at least many Kemetics, maybe not all, but from my understanding, I think it's pretty prominent that they teach that everything exists within a duality. You know what I'm saying? It's like a yin and yang type of a thing. Now, whether that's traces back to ancient Kemet, I don't know. Whether that's more of a modern convention, I don't know. But I think if he were going to make that, if he were going to defend himself, I think he would probably want to take that route. Now, with that being said, even still, that wouldn't work because it doesn't bear itself out in the examples that we just gave. We just gave examples where women are having to turn male to get into the afterlife. Hatshepsut is having to take on maleness in order to be to be a pharaoh, so on and so forth. And so we just BK Apostles gave some other examples. So even if he wants to, for anybody who's watching and wants to maybe take that route about the duality, it still doesn't work because you don't see it play out in their actual practice.
Real quick, I'm not even trying to. I want to let you guys talk. You guys are experts, but what Adam Coleman did was dope. I don't know if you guys caught this. I want to show real quick what he did was dope. Have you guys ever heard of a straw man argument? I'm talking to the audience. Straw man argument. That's where you erect some weak version of the argument the person doesn't hold to, and then you knock it down. Adam Coleman just erected a steel man argument. Now, I'm not making that up. That's actually called a thing. It's called a steel man argument. Steel man argument is where you improve upon your opponent's position, give them a better version of the argument than they actually gave, and then knock down the steel man. Props to Adam Coleman for bringing the steel man into the house and then knocking him right down.
Nice.
There it is, man. Tony Stark, that was Iron Man. Yep. Close enough.
Got nanotech, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
right.
That's dope. So should we continue to the next question, or you guys have it?
I'll queue up the next question.
Cool. Let's get busy.
The infamous vocabulation.
Yes. The dagger. The shiv, the prison shank.
Can y'all see that?
Yeah, we good.
Okay.
Your response to Egypt, which was an ancient imperialistic power, and almost all the iconography as they display Nubians, which, by the way, are almost always displayed as prisoners or primitives in their art. It's a fact. What do you do that they almost always precede Nubia with vile? Vile Kush is how ancient Egyptians describe Nubia. What do you say to that?
First, let me say, Brother Vocab Malone, we got a lot of work to do. Because you've been misled. First of all, you should understand that for most of the time that Kemet existed, the place we call Nubia was a group of different peoples. It was not listen, you're talking and not listening. I'm teaching now. You need to be taught based on what you just said. Honestly, no disrespect. So that there were groups, large groups of people that were not one nation for most of the time that Kemet was in power. There were times that Kemet would have disagreements with one group and work with other groups. Sometimes when the European shows you these images, they'll, for example, show you very often, if we had more time, I'd show it to you, the image of Tutankhamen on one of his boxes. And he's actually on a chariot killing people that you would think are Nubian. And they just show you that. But brother, I have been to the museums and I've seen the box with my own eyes. The other side, there are Nubians behind him fighting with him. They don't show you that section because they want you to believe that the Kemetic people are not you. That is the challenge. Now, you have to understand that Kemet was not, we're talking about 3,000 years. Kemet was not always imperialistic. Kemet became imperialistic after the Hyksos, some of you know what I'm saying. After the Hyksos come forward, the Hekshasu, those people that may be the Proto-Hebrews, come and take control of their land, they say never again. That's when they become imperialistic. So you have to understand all 3,000 years. You watched the documentary. That's nice. You didn't read the... And guess what? Guess what? If you look, by the way, I've read. He talks about which period he's talking about. He doesn't talk about all of them. So what you have to do is have a better understanding to make those comments. By the way, in terms of being wretched, the Kemetic people believed that there were 9 groups of people that they had to be able to fight in order to be in control.
Gotcha.
Some of them were Nubian. There was more than one Nubian group because they disagreed with some and worked with others. The Magi, for example, worked with the Kemetic people for a long time. They were the police.
Gotcha.
So please don't conflate that.
Yeah, we got to.
By the way, Nubia is a new word.
Gotcha.
You just smashed 4,000 years.
Gotcha.
Wait, what's this?
I got a question. Because I'm burning.
He was
flustered, boy.
Oh man, he was hot, man.
Flustered. So vocab. So what was your first impression of his response to you?
First of all, Jabari is hilarious. He's hilarious. I'm teaching now. Oh man. So I love my favorite line of the whole response is this. Egypt wasn't always imperialistic. We weren't always that way. That's my favorite line because thereby admitting Egypt's an imperial power. I mean,
right.
The Egyptian kingdom is not just them sitting around staring at their pyramids. It's going and conquering people. And they had some nasty stuff to say about their neighbors. Now, just because I said what I said, he's trying to read this whole thing into it. It doesn't mean that that I didn't think or have a clue or understand or anything like that. That the fact that ancient Kush was multi-ethnic, multicultural, multi-religious, multi-linguistic with a bunch of tribes and peoples, the same thing's true in regards to Egypt itself. Kemet itself. Like, okay, answer the question. Whoever they were, apparently they were all vile. Right. And you can see. No, I'm not saying that, obviously, from my perspective. I'm saying that was Egypt's favorite adjective. The ancient Egyptians' favorite adjective was that. And I'll just read one. And you can see the art. They show people darker themselves, and they show them kicking their butts or serving them. I'm overstating it a little bit just because of how slick he was, but it's pretty much right. Here's an example. This is from one of their stelas they had. I always mispronounce words, okay? But it's the triumphal one, dated in year 1, and you can look at this more in a couple different places. One place is Netzrazim, and check this out. One came to inform His Majesty that vile Kush had revolted. Now, just stop right there. You've kind of got it all right there. Now, there's a whole paragraph I can read. Vile Kush is revolting. What are they revolting against? The imperialistic power of Egypt, and they're vile. These people are nasty, they're gross, they're wretched, they're wicked. And that those who were subjects of the Lord of the Two Lands, now who's the Lord of the Two Lands? Jabari knows who that is. Okay, who subjects, so there's just subjects, right? Imperialistic power, have planned rebellion to plunder the people of Egypt and to steal cattle from those fortresses, which king, I can't pronounce these names, Aker had built in his victories in order to repel the revolted lands, and the Nubian tribesmen of Kinethinifi, and now a chieftain in the north of Vile Cush, was falling into a season of disobedience together with 2 tribesmen of Tasit, children of the chieftain of Vile Cush, who had fled before the Lord of the 2 lands on the day of the goodly God's slaughtering. The day of the goodly God slaughtering. Amen. This land being divided into 5 pieces, each man being a possessor of his own portion. Now, the point is, this is Donald Trump does this. He gets somebody and then he names them right away and always says their name to depersonalize them and to make you think of them in that negative way. Right. Lying Ted, Crooked Hillary, Sleepy Joe, Shifty Shift, or whatever.
Right.
He does it. Egypt is doing that with the people that they've subjugated, by the way. Vile Cush, right?
What I found funny is, he laid the claim to Bantu about using the euphemism of the message spread, right? But then he goes and says they had disagreements with Nubia. Disagreements?
Right.
Disagreements? Really? So actually, if I could share my screen, if that's possible.
All right,
because, hold on. Yeah.
The message spread. Yeah. That's how white people talk about it.
Yeah, that's what he said. Exactly. Like, come on, bro. He's doing the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Minimizing.
Do you guys see that?
He's minimizing.
Do you see that?
Yep. There's the book.
So this is. I think, was this the book you was referring to, Vocab?
It was a book you and I talked about, but when I was speaking to him, he said you watched a documentary. I'm not a watch Egypt documentary guy. I was referring to a PhD dissertation about a guy, the whole dissertation, and I quoted it there. Now I forget. I'm looking for it again. I got it saved. But the whole dissertation is about iconography in ancient Egypt, and it speaks about how the Cushites or Nubians, depends on which time period or what you want to call, but are almost always depicted as either servile or getting defeated.
Right.
Almost. Not all the time. Okay. This is true. There's statues you can find of benevolent Cushites with friendly faces, smiling. You know what I'm saying? This is true. Right. But almost always servile or getting beat up. It's just what it is. That's in there in iconography. And that's what I was referring to when I gave that dissertation, the guy. But yeah, I wasn't talking about Wretched Cush. I found that actually later.
All right. So this is the book entitled Wretched Cush, Ethnic Identities and Boundaries in Egypt's Nubian Empire by Stuart Tyson Smith. And he says here, Egyptian ideological stereotypes presented Nubian ethnicity in negative terms, in this case as cowards. In the celebratory monuments of the ancient Egyptian state, Nubia could not simply be referred to by its ancient name Cush, but must always be Wretched Cush. The negative qualities of Nubian ethnicity help to define the positive qualities of Egyptianness. So they define themselves by putting these other people down, right?
And notice it specifically says they're banging on their ethnicity.
Yes, absolutely.
Specific. And cowards. Who else like to portray black people as cowards? You guys ever seen those old movies where they show a black person and they go white? Like you can find old Three Stooges. They all, like old vaudeville stuff, loves to portray black folks as cowards. That's a common trope.
Scared about, I
guess true. Vaudeville ripped off ancient I'm sorry, ancient
they plagiarized, right. Elsewhere in the book, it says Nefer appears in the tomb of the superior Hoi, the viceroy of Kush in the time of Tutankhamun, as a barbaric foreigner, a living icon for wretched Kush, Nubia, abjectly groveling in front of Pharaoh during the annual ceremony presentation of tribute. And this is the actual tribute. They're looking at the Nubian princess, including Nefer, present tribute to Tutankhamun from the tomb of the viceroy of Kush. Right. Elsewhere we have, right. It says the ideologies of the Egyptian states created similar oppositional ethnic categories for political ends. Thus, Kush, the ancient toponym of Upper Nubia, was transformed into Wretched Kush. After the Egyptian New Kingdom conquest, wretched connotes not only inferiority, but also a sense of foreordained failure in any rebellion against Egyptian authority.
There's the imperialistic tendency too. Wow. It's all there. Go ahead.
The mandatory linkage of Reshit and Cush also activated sympathetic magic to work against Nubians.
Dang.
So their prejudice was part of their sorcery, their theology. It wasn't just a smear campaign. This was a spiritual issue for them.
If you don't call them wretched in your spell, it won't work.
Right.
That's right. Wild.
This is far more than a disagreement.
We had some disagreements, folks.
Yeah. This is a quote from King Senwosret III. A coward is he who is driven from his border. Since the Nubian listens to rumors, to answer him is to make him retreat. Attack him and he will turn his back. Retreat and he will start attacking. They are not people one respects. They are wretches, craven-hearted. My majesty has seen it. It is not an untruth.
Hey, he's all like the white racist. Like, hey, why are you saying that? That's a stereotype. Well, if it's true, I'm just saying a fact. You know, that's what that guy's saying. I've seen it with my own eyes. Hey, you know what's crazy about that?
Ancient Egyptian with a southern antebellum accent.
Great.
The funny thing about, not funny, the real thing is they were actually known for their prowess with ancient weapons. They were actually known for like their skill. You know what I'm saying? It's
the 9 bowls, I think they were known.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They be hitting. They were the original Hawkeyes.
Yeah, absolutely. So here we have another source here: the Blackwell Companions to the Ancient World, a companion to ethnicity in the ancient Mediterranean, edited by Jeremy McInerney. It says here, the foreigner topos also likened the ethnic other to animals, echoing the ambiguity of the term ethnos, which, as discussed by Siapakas in chapter 5 in this volume, might be used to refer to animals as well as peoples. Wow. For example, at the end of the New Kingdom text, the instruction of Ani, we've heard that name before, right? The Papyrus of Ani. Mm-hmm. The student complains that no one could possibly learn everything that Ani presents to him. Ani replies that animals can be trained and that one teaches the Nubian to speak Egyptian, the Syrian and other strangers too. Say, I shall do like all the beasts. Listen and learn what they do.
Oh, hey, bro, that's some serious bars.
Animals.
Yo, they quote the Papyrus of Ani all the time, yo. How many times did they quote that joint?
Forever, bro. Forever.
All the time. You never hear that quote though.
Hey, if these guys can learn it, you can too. It's like, man. Hey, well, guys, maybe we should give him a fair shake. To be fair, it could be a compliment because, I mean, the Egyptians worshipped animals as gods. So maybe they're trying to say something positive. We're just not catching it.
Was that another still man vocab? Was that what you're trying to do?
Yeah.
Still man, a little rusty right there, you know. But
these guys are animals, just like our gods.
It's so wild. You know how the Bible's like, you know, look to the ant, oh sluggard, or look to the, you know, the beast. You know, like for like now, they're like, oh yeah, look to the Nubian. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, that's crazy to me, bro. Look to the Nubian. Yeah,
but again, right? It calls again with when you make a claim about an ancient peoples, I need to hear the ancient people say it themselves.
Yeah.
Right? Because you are a representative of an ancient civilization and you're making claims on their behalf.
Right.
The thing that will strengthen your claim is if you could show us what these actual people actually said and if it matches with the claim you're making.
Right.
So clearly, when he says they had disagreements, it was far more severe than, you know, let's agree to disagree. You know, it was like, it was mandatory. It was part of their spiritual upbringing, right? You had to invoke this demagoguery in order for this to work. Like it was embedded in their culture, in their spirituality, in their politics, in their campaigns. It was part and parcel of the worldview. And it's not us saying it, it's them saying it.
Yeah, like a disagreement is like if you say LeBron James is the greatest of all time, and I'm like, nah, it's Michael Jordan. Like that's a disagreement. Right. Neither one of them is going to go back to the crib and perform some sort of magical spell on the other guy. Based upon where we fall on that argument. That's not what this
I thought it was Larry Bird, fellas. I'm not gonna be that guy. But in all seriousness, you said are campaigns. You got one story about the campaign with Tutmosis the First. So it's about 1500 years, 1530 BC, right? Columns 29 and 36, where this is being described. I'm not going to read all of it, but they're describing coming back from it, and they're describing the boat journey back. All right. So let me read this part right here. There's some words in here I don't know, but wait for the end. It almost sounds like a lynching. Wait for the end. At this, his majesty became furious like a panther. His majesty shot his first arrow, remained in the chest of this enemy. Then those weak, now there's a damage area in the text, a week before his Uraeus, and I don't know what that means. In a moment, a slaughter was made among them, and their families were taken as living prisoners. His majesty journeyed north, all foreign lands being in his grasp. There's that imperialism I told you about. Now listen to this. While this vile Nubian was hung head down at the prow of his majesty's ship Falcon, landing at the temple of Karnak. And am I reading this wrong? Because it sounds like they got a dude on the tip of the ship hung upside down coming back with them like that. I guess it was just a disagreement, though.
Yeah. That sounds like that strange fruit that that song "Strange Fruit" from back in the day. That's what it reminded me of. You know what I'm saying?
Blood on the leaves. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's the same thing, right? I mean, but again, see, that's the thing is, like, you know. Well, let me back up for a second. I think this is what we're all kind of circling around. The issue is there's such a, you know, and one of y'all said about this Pollyanna view of Kemetic history. And, you know, it's not just Kemet. People do that with Africa, just, you know, in general. And I get it. I understand, like, somebody, as a black man in America, I get it. You know, you're growing up and you feel just kind of, you know, beat up, you know, 5 ways of Sunday in terms of, you know, your skin color being less than. I remember when I was a kid, you know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, it's so funny. My dad was like super woke, apparently. So I remember, like, back in the day, I'm kind of dating myself here a little bit, but I had the game Double Dribble from
classic.
The Nintendo. Yeah, it's a classic, right?
Double Dribble.
Double Dribble. Yep. Exactly. So for some people that may not remember, but what would happen is if you had a black player and you passed the ball to him, he would turn white, like you would get highlighted. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, they had no other way to, you know, make sure you had this visual cue of who you were controlling. So you pass it to the black guy and it would turn white. And so my dad was walking by one day and saw that.
Oh, no. It's really funny.
My dad's like, take that game out immediately. They're trying to believe that black people can't play basketball. Like, and I'm dead serious. He made me take the game out. That was literally the last time I played Double Dribble, B. I think I had the game for like maybe 3 weeks or something like that, and I had to get rid of it. You know, I can't remember where I was going with that, but
that was great though. That was good.
It was hilarious. I can't remember where I was going with it. But
actually, I got one more slide because I don't want to be remiss. Because
okay, if I remember, I'll come back to it.
Because, you know.
Oh yeah, this is what I was going to say.
I'm
just saying. The wound runs deep in terms of ethnic self-esteem. I understand that. The issue is, I'm saying, we can't use revisionist history to medicate low ethnic self-esteem. You know what I'm saying? This is why I harp on true ID so much. The real you, Imago Dei. We're made in the image of God. That is the foundation of our value, identity, and so forth. The reason why I harp on that is we don't have to be subject to the ups and downs of the history of our people to, you know, try to, you know, draw some sort of value out of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, we just highlight the good parts, kind of push the other stuff away. You know, I mean, I'll shove it under the rug. You know what I'm saying? We don't have to do that. I'm made in the image of God. You know what I'm saying? There is no being, you know what I'm saying, upon which I can found my identity and value that is greater than God. You know what I'm saying? So when you start trying to place your value and invest it into other things, at some point you got to tap dance. I'm saying, because I don't care whose history it is, whatever ethnic group it is, we all got skeletons somewhere.
Yep. Yeah. So with that, right? Now, Jabari said that they weren't always imperialistic, right? That's what he said. And most of the quotes that I shared came from the New Kingdom, right? So let's load this up. All right. Antonio Lopereno of the University of Basel wrote, in the Old Kingdom, right? In the Old Kingdom, Egypt's population also included foreign prisoners of war called, I can't even say that. I don't know what that is. But it translates bound for life from the time of Sennacherib. There is evidence of important expeditions to abduct Nubians or Libyans to work as laborers or to serve in specialized military units. The ideological aspect of this phenomenon is represented by the so-called excretion texts, spells inscribed on terracotta figurines of the foreign princes to be suppressed, as well as by the ritual of smiting the enemy and the reliefs of prisoners of war with their arms tied behind their backs, documented throughout Egyptian history on the walls of temples. Prisoners captured during wartime and raids on occupied territories, initially in Nubia, then in Libya and Asia as well, formed a large segment of the population in the state of servitude. So, wow. This also happened in the Old Kingdom. You were servants for life. You was doing life with these dudes.
Wow.
All right. So, disagreements? Oh yeah, sure. A few. There was a few.
A slight disagreement.
There was a few.
Like enslavement for life.
You know, I say tomato, you say tomato. You know,
right.
Let's call the whole thing off. Yeah. So
cool. Let's see. So you want to rock out on the next clip?
Okay, yeah, let's do it.
That's whatever y'all want to do, man. Oh, wait, okay. Have you over? I see you. You raise your hand. You want to say something?
Well, I mean, I guess I would wonder: does Jabari even think imperialism is wrong? You know what? We're gonna have to. You know, I know we're gonna get to this, but I don't see the resources within any given ancient Kemetic worldview to have objective morality and to be able to say it's a problem in the first place. Let's say that for ancient Kemet, it was politically valuable to refer to Cushites, Nubians, whatever term you want to use here, as lesser ethnically and characteristic wise. Let's say it was, what does he have within his worldview that can say that was wrong? You should not do that. Because that has to be established, right? I'm not saying that Jabari would do this himself or anything like that. I'm just saying we need to understand or know, okay, what is it that makes this actually objectively wrong or right? Because I imagine he would have critiques of American forms of imperialism, and we might sit here and agree with a lot of what we might say about that, right?
Right.
What about Egypt? Did they get the same, open critique? And if so, what are the moral resources he has to justify these critiques? Because to say something's wrong, you've got to have a place that you're measuring it by, a standard you're measuring it by. Right. And I want to know all this because I still don't see that there in ancient Kemet from anything I've been able to see so far. And so we're having this conversation here, but there's this stuff over here as well, because he clearly didn't like ancient Kemet being described as imperialistic. He clearly didn't like
funny enough, in the third round, when he was telling us that we need to look back at ancient Egypt so we could see how it was when we was on top.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right. And I made the statement that, well, obviously, oppressing someone else isn't the issue. It's who's doing the oppression.
So Jabari is saying we need to adopt an imperialistic theocracy then. Okay.
Yes. And it's good if they're the ones doing it. It's bad when the other person's doing it. But the concept of imperialistic conquest itself isn't bad. It's who's doing the conquest.
We need an imperialistic theocracy.
Yes.
In which our top politician is viewed as God himself in some way.
The son of Ra.
And in which the common folk spend a large part of their life building giant coffins for them.
Their entire lives is built on propaganda. They build propaganda.
That's the solution for the community.
Look at me. Look how amazing I am.
Also, don't forget, if we don't talk about class system, not caste system like India. Mm-hmm. Egypt had some serious problems when it came to class. I don't think, you want to talk about 99 percenters, if you guys remember that. You know what I'm saying? That whole thing and the 1 percenters.
Yeah.
Egypt is the real the real, saying 99% situation going on. I mean, you want to talk about a hard class system in which it's difficult to, I'm just saying, man, I don't think it's to be modeled in a lot of things. Sure, some things are, but I mean, don't deify it, and then we won't have to come so hard at it. Just say, hey, here's a good bet,
Right. And again, it's
like,
yeah.
Oh yeah, no, go ahead.
All right, it's that what they do bring, right? What they do express is the elitism of this particular worldview. You never hear them talk about the common commission and how they live their life day to day. I mean, we have works that talk about that. We definitely do. But when we see these guys, these teachers of the Kemetic worldview, we never hear the day-to-day lifestyle of the average Joe in Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
It's always about the regalness and the haughtiness of being, royalty. But everybody can't be in a suit. At most you had two, right? Upper or lower. But trust, the upper dude was trying to get the lower dude. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
most of the time there was only one pharaoh.
I mean, when you look at scripture, Jesus is obviously very concerned about what's referred to as the least of these. You know what I'm saying? Like you find that term, in his teachings. Actually, even as he's talking about, I want to say it's Matthew, I always get 5:25, whatever it is, where he's talking about that end time scene where, you stand before him at judgment. He's going to be like, whatever you did to the least of these, my brethren, you did unto me. Like, and so I think any nation, as a matter of fact, I'm going to mess this up, but I think it was Dr. King that quoted as well, is that a nation can be measured based upon how it treats the least of these.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so that's what I want to hear about. I want to know, like, okay, it's cool that the pharaohs could do this and so on and so forth. We know how they get into the afterlife, but how was it for the least of them? I'm saying that's what I want to know.
Right.
What did their worldview have to say about the least of them? And what it meant to take care of those folks.
Yeah, I mean, the Bible has the story of Ruth. This is a peasant woman because she's doing stuff that peasants would do, getting the corners of the fields when they had to let it sit, you know what I'm saying? Who's a widower, right? And is a foreigner. And the Bible says, let me tell you the story of Ruth, Israelites. You know what I mean? The Bible has the story of Jonah. This more has to do with the xenophobia of a lot of ancient peoples and stuff like that. It's not necessarily the little guy per se, but you see him going to the Assyrians. And it's interesting, Alfredo, you mentioned like left out as the common man. Leo Oppenheim, I found this quote today when I was preparing for this show we were doing. Leo Oppenheim was the premier kind of 20th century Assyriologist in Chicago, where the big archaeology guys and all that.
Right.
And I was reading up on this, and he said this. He said, the common man remains unknown, the most important element in Mesopotamian religion, end quote. And then the book said the same could be said of ancient Egypt. And that's exactly true. Now, he was talking about his specialty, but I think the same exact thing true, that strand of elitism,
right?
Is what, and that's why, Casablanca, this is like Casablanca, it's all about these hotty-toddy, it's even called Casablanca, White House walking. And then what's the black dude? Play it again, Sam. Black dude, he's playing the piano.
The Nubian.
Yeah. I'm like trying to make light of a messed up situation, but I'm saying that's ancient Egypt. It's Casablanca. You know what I mean? Yeah. The hotty-totty elites get to run around, the Great Gatsby, and then play it again, Sam.
Right. No,
right. True. But mind you, I mean, lest we straw man Jabari, he did say, kind of going back to, you mentioned Nubia, he did say it wasn't all Nubians that they, referred to as wicked and all that kind of stuff. It was just some of them,
Yeah, he even mentioned, if you look behind, I mean, I'm going to say, I'm paraphrasing what he said with some flourish. He says, when you see the images of them kicking Nubians' butts, sometimes you'll see some Nubians with them behind them. I'm like, I mean, he's like kind of saying, we got some sellouts on our squad.
Yes, the black people fought on the side of the Confederate South. I mean,
a Confederate apologist saying that kind of thing.
Was cool with Africans. Man, get out of here, man. That's crazy.
But my last quote, the last thing that I shared, they did take them and conscripted them into their army.
Right. Oh, yeah. Good point. Yeah.
So, they were fighting with them. But were they really fighting with them? I mean, so that doesn't work either.
That's wild, man.
But yeah, let's get to the we have time for the next joint, or what do you want to do, Adam?
Oh, I'm good.
You good? All right, so let's continue.
Hey, yeah.
All right, cool.
We can pull an all night. Pull an all night breakdown session.
No, I don't know about all that. I don't know about all that. So yeah, Adam. So whenever, so do what you do, bro.
You see that? Y'all see that?
Yes, sir.
I think I don't know if I started at the right place. Let me see.
Being here and just for the love and the disposition that y'all both have displayed. So I appreciate you both. My question.
That's the wrong clip. Sorry. My bad.
Got a good live chat, man. You got almost 40 people checking out this. This is great.
Nice. Good stuff.
Shout out. Somebody said their son was ill. Shout out to them. We'll definitely be praying for them. Somebody in the live chat said that.
We're coming there.
I really think that it's an issue that we have to address in a lot of.
Okay, hold up. My bad. It's like the one. Oh, here we go. I forgot to delete it. Here we go.
My question is for Brother Jabari. Who is the God that you all worship or you ascribe to?
That's a good question that I get sometimes for folks who are really genuinely trying to understand what we do, but may not understand everything. Sometimes you've been told that we are, for example, polytheists. We would not describe our tradition that way. African traditions, most African traditions, all that I have found, actually argue that the divine force is all things. How do you describe something that is everything? If the ceiling was the floor and the floor the ceiling, what would you call it? And so they don't spend a lot of time talking about the one divine force. They talk about how the force behaves in different instances. It's a coalescement of divine energy that allows you to do certain things. Now, having said that, that means that I may call in a multiplicity of names. I am a priest of the shrine of Ma'at. So that is the shrine that I have consecrated with my queen. But I call it, before I got up here, I called certain names. So I don't see that as like being a different God. Does that make sense? It's a different type of energy. I believe that the divine force is not just energy, it's also matter. But the fact is that when you see these things, our inability to see past with our five senses betrays us. So that what we do is we think that I am distinct from this table, that he is distinct from me. And in actuality, that is to some degree an illusion. And so this is a really complex topic, but I want you to understand that you could, if I'm going into battle, I may call one name. By the way, Kemetic people, you see me dressed in red and black. What was I doing? Somebody just said, yeah, see, they whispering because they didn't want you to know that I am invoking Sutek because I'm going.
We got him on record. Got him on record.
Got him on record. That's wild right there. That's wild. So, there's a lot I want to say on that. Now, I'm actually going to give a concise version. So here's the thing. So I was really excited about that question. Actually, even more so than the one I asked. And I'm going to tell you why. First of all, shout out to my man, Wilt Sorrow. The guy who asked that question is from VA. I know that guy from doing gospel rap back in the day and stuff. So shout out to him, by the way, my man, Wilt. You know, so he just, actually, I didn't even know he was going to be there. He just happened to be there. So that was pretty dope. So shout out for him for that very, this is what I'm looking for, poignant, perceptive question. So with that being said, you know, I'm going to kind of give a concise version. I want to monopolize the conversation, and it's already like, you know, whatever it is. But if people go back to the podcast episode I did, I want to say it's like, I think I titled it like SJ5 or SJ6. It's basically, the subtitle is God versus the Wu-Tang Clan. You can either find it on my YouTube channel, or you can just go to trueidpodcast.com or iTunes and you can listen to it there. But if you go back to that episode, I do a breakdown of different worldviews, and I just point out the flaws. And the whole point of the episode is to show why these other worldviews, like Vocab alluded to, don't have a basis, a firm basis for objective morality. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm just going to give a kind of a snippet to that. So when you think about what he just said, right? Well, first of all, when we talk about worldviews, you can picture them as having like different components. And so just kind of real briefly, one way to look at it would be to say that you've got metaphysics, which has to do with like what exists. And that's kind of where you get into the question of whether that worldview, affirms a God or not, whether it be polytheistic, theistic, or whatever. But metaphysics is one branch of a worldview. Okay, then you got like anthropology, which is to say that what that worldview has to say about mankind and who we are, what we're here for, that sort of thing. And then you got the other ones, but the main one I want to get to is the branch about ethics, okay, or morality, right? Every worldview, if it's to be taken seriously, has to give an account of morality. It has to give you a moral framework, okay? Now, one of the things you can do when you're evaluating a worldview is you want to see how the different components of a worldview, if they're able to adequately explain what they're supposed to explain, and that they don't clash with each other. You know what I'm saying? So if you got a metaphysical view that clashes with ethics, you know what I'm saying, when you put those two pieces together, then that's a red flag that there's something wrong with your worldview. You know what I'm saying? So all the pieces of your worldview should fit together in a nice, tight-knit, package, so to speak, without clashing with one another. Now, I would suggest that when you take the metaphysical part in terms of what Comedics believe about God, and by Comedics, I'm referring to the specific type that Jabari would represent. When you take what they believe about the Most High being, their ultimate reality, that's their metaphysics. When you take that component and you consider how it interacts with the question of morality, I'm saying that the two clash, particularly in regard to going back to what is mankind and how we interact with one another. Now, here's why I say that. Okay, now he just said that in his basically the ultimate reality in his worldview is that the one, sometimes they'll refer to it as the one, is everything. The divine is everything that he referred to as the divine energy. Okay, so everything, and he actually said not only is it energy, but he said also matter. So all matter and energy, all right, are the one. You know what I'm saying? And he gave an example. He talked about how when you look at a different person, you think that you are separate from that person, or you look at a table. Or the podium, rather, you think you're separate from that podium. It's actually an illusion. It's all just undifferentiated. It's all the one. That's what he believes. Now, if that is the case, if that's true, then he literally just daggered both everything he said in the first and third round of the debate. And I'm gonna tell you why. I'm saying because if everything is included within the one, right, his most high reality. Okay, I'm gonna get a little deeper here in a second. Then that means that the enslavers that he was so mad about. Matter of fact, let me go to this. Let me show my screen right quick.
All right.
I'll take my time with this right here.
Let's go.
All right, let me show my screen.
If you guys are wondering in the live chat why Adam does that, Sutek is sometimes called Set or Seth. If you want a whirlwind of an experience, look up information about Sutek, this god that Jabari is invoking in this debate.
And I would say something else about that too. But yeah, that's a great point. So basically what I want to look at is I want to look at the moral implications of his worldview. What I'm saying is that if you take what he says about the one, that everything exists within this one divine force, basically that one divine force is everything, then you're going to run into problems in regard to morality and with respect to human worth. Okay. Now here's the reason why I said here's a condensed version. Now, first of all, he said he mentioned something about he's dedicated himself. I want to say dedicated or something like that himself to the shrine of Ma'at. Now, some people may not know what that means. It's just kind of overview. But Ma'at was a goddess, if we can use that. I guess he would say energy, but I'll just use a common term, a goddess who represented righteousness, order, justice, reciprocity, basically the good. I'm saying that's what Ma'at represented in their theology. Okay. Now, here's the thing. If everything exists within the one, all right, then, Ma'at, whatever energy that is, exists within the one, right? Okay, but at the same time, the opposite of that, the opposite of Ma'at, which is Isfet. He mentions Isfet earlier. I can't remember what he was referring to, but when he was talking about temple desecration, he says that's Isfet.
It's
now,
Isfet. Right.
Isfet.
Disharmony. Right.
Disharmony. I'm saying exactly, or chaos. So the ancient Egyptians, Comedics, whatever, in the same way that we use the terms good and evil, they use order and chaos. I'm saying it's like, so those would be the terms that they use. So Ma'at represented order, Isfet represented chaos.
Right.
So you look at Ma'at as being good, Isfet being evil. Now, here's the thing. If everything exists within the one, then that means that both Ma'at and Isfet exist within the one. Okay? So if Isfet exists within the one, if it's a part of the one, then that means that their most high being, their ultimate reality, divinity, is permanently and eternally, at least partly, chaos. Then it's a morally imperfect being. It has to be, because Isfet doesn't exist outside of the one; it's within it. You see what I'm saying? And so when he talks, so therefore you got this morally imperfect being. Now on top of this, let's bring it a little step lower. Okay, so when on a human level, let's use an example. Let's talk about slavery, for example. Both the slave and the slave master were both emanations or expressions of the one.
The oppressed and the oppressor. Right.
The
oppressed and the oppressor. Right.
The oppressed and the oppressor in any given circumstance is the one. So again, let me go to this next screen. So when he brings out moral qualms like temple destructions, bloody conversions, slavery, misogyny, well, he's mad. He's citing these things as being evil, but ultimately, all these things are committed by the one.
They come from the one, right?
Because nothing exists outside of the one. So whether Isfet, evil, exists as an actual entity, or it's being committed by individuals who are doing these things, either way, the Most High being in his theology, or the ultimate reality in his theology, is directly responsible, is the direct culprit for everything that he called out against Christianity in the first round.
Wow. Yeah.
Secondly, you know what I'm saying, when it comes to the goals and things like that he talked about in the third round, we need to, tighten up economically, and, we need to have, knowledge of self. And here's things that people in the Kemetic community are doing.
Right.
Well, when you think about it, again, if the one literally is both the oppressor and the oppressed, then everybody that you're fighting against to gain freedom, to gain your human flourishing, they're part of the one too. So you're literally fighting against your own most high being, your own ultimate reality.
It's a self-refuting worldview. It's self-refuting.
Self-refuting worldview. Last thing I'm gonna say about it, when it comes to, again, I talked about human worth. Okay. Now here's the thing. If evil is a part of the one, right? Then it's you dealing with a morally imperfect being. Sometimes you hear Kemetics and other I guess we can call them African spiritualists, they use a phrase as above, so below. Right. I'm saying, so they, take it that the attributes of the divine force are their own attributes. Well, if that's true, then evil is a part of who you are, and inescapably so. It will always be the case. You know what I'm saying? Evil for you is a stain that will never be erased because it's a part of the one. It's a part of the one. Now, contrast that with Christianity. And Christianity is evil, first of all, is not eternal. It hasn't always been here, right? You can say it's a privation of good. If we want to get into that, we can. But nevertheless, it hasn't always been here. And one way or the other, through the cross, by grace, through faith, you know what I'm saying? We're going to have new bodies. We're going to be in the new kingdom, so on and so forth. We will no longer be stained with evil. That's what Jesus did on the cross, right? But for the Kemetic, you will always be stained with evil. You know what I'm saying? There's no way out. There is no remedy for it. You know what I'm saying? You're part of the evil, and that's all you can expect.
Because it's part of the balance.
It's part of the balance.
It's part of the balance.
So what does that do to your human worth? You know what I'm saying? You have to now evaluate yourself on a different scale. You know what I'm saying? You and the God that you worship are inescapably stained with evil. Right. You know what I'm saying? There's no out for you. Evil's always going to run. So that's what I'm saying. So, when it comes to everything he said, everything he tried to lob against Christianity, from the slave ships to whatever else you want to say, I'm saying at the end of the day, if you left Christianity for that, you know what I'm saying, that means you jumped out of the frying pan into the fire, because it's not just the case that you have these people who are supposedly doing things in the name of God. Your God did it.
Right.
He's responsible. You see what I'm saying? So I just wanted to kind of rock out on that, man, and just kind of get Vocab. Oh, did we lose Vocab?
We did. I'm sure he'll be back soon.
Okay. All right.
But my point of contention with that is that he's saying that these ancient people were not polytheists, right? So that means they didn't have a pantheon, right? And that it was energy manifested in different forms and also matter, right? That's the claim. This is what I need. I need him to show Let me put vocab back in there. There you go. Hey, but I need a stele, I need a papyrus, I need a statue, an obelisk, something that these ancient people are expressing that worldview in that manner. Because this is what you're saying that these people believe. Great. Can you show me that that's what they believe? Or this is just your take on what they believe? Right? So that's my issue. It's like there's no...
I'm gonna throw this at you too, actually. And I'm gonna just kind of throw at what I think may be driving that. So I think you have two things. Okay, number one, and it's not just in America, because I've heard this from Africans as well, you know what I'm saying, who take the same route to try to explain Kemetic spiritualism. All right, it's this notion that they weren't polytheists, but they were actually, whether it's say if it was Ra or the sun or whatever that they appeared to be worshiping, those things were just emanations or expressions of the one, but really they were giving homage to this one divine force and energy. Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that. Now, I think, and I could be wrong. I think a lot of that comes out of a reaction to this bad taste in the mouths that they have for Christianity and the Abrahamic religions. And so I'm gonna tell you why. So, for a long time, polytheism, or at least amongst Muslims and Christians and Jews, polytheism is like, it's just anathema, you know what I'm saying? Right. And so I think in some ways you have some people trying to shed that off, you know what I'm saying, and then repackage what it is that they believe in a way that's more, I'll just say, respectable, whether it be intellectually or otherwise. You know what I'm saying? The other side is too, you got some guys who I think that they'll take on some other form of spirituality, as long as it's not Christianity, as long as it doesn't resemble Christianity, they'll rock. You know what I'm saying? Like some of these guys will call themselves atheists, but then when you ask them to describe what they believe, they say exactly what Jabari said. You know what I mean? So really, it's not atheism; it's pantheism.
Right? Exactly. It reminded me of when Obi-Wan Kenobi first explains what the Force is to Luke Skywalker. Yeah, it's pretty much the same thing. It's all around us. It's through us. It's the Force.
Right.
Actually, there's literally a quote. You know what he said? Your five senses. He said that. He almost quoted Obi-Wan Kenobi when Obi-Wan Kenobi is first training Luke how to use a lightsaber, and they're on the deck, the Millennium Falcon, and the little probe droid sends the little stuns. He says, "I can't even see with the blast shield out. How am I supposed to fight?" Luke Skywalker, Obi-Wan says, "Your eyes can deceive you. Don't trust them." Jabari said that, and then when Luke's X-wing sinks into the swamp of Dagobah, and he's like, "Oh, we'll never get it out now." And Yoda's like, "So certain are you?" And he says, "Judge me by my size, do you? And well, you should not, for my ally is the Force." And then Yoda goes in the spiel. It sounds exactly like Jabari. He says, "Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter."
Right.
And he pinches Luke's flesh with his little 3-fingered hand. And then it says that feel the Force between the rock, between the tree, and even between the land and the ship.
Yeah.
I was like, yo, Jabari sounds like Yoda right now, bro. Sounds like Yoda right now, like a lot. And he actually says, I don't know if you guys heard, there's a part where he says, through an amalgamation of forces, I think it was the exact word he used, you can do certain things. I was like, I hope he's not about to get into what that one Keston guy, whatever that guy's name was, who talked about levitating stuff and building pyramids. I was like, what's happening?
Well, these kind of all the same. Now, there's spectrums in terms of what people hold to about this. So Keston would probably be maybe further to the extreme than Jabari would, but to some extent, I don't want to misquote Jabari or take him too far out of context. To some extent, he's right about. When it comes to African religions, there being a common feature, this prominent on the continent, I'll say that there is this energy, this force that flows through everything. Now, where I think he slipped up was that he said that he basically treated them as if the Force and the Most High, I'll just use the term Most High, are one and the same. And it's not true that that's like the only model that you see on the African continent. I mean, you have some others where there's there is a Most High being that is differentiated in of itself. The sky god, the high god, Chukwu, Chikenge, a Most High being. And then also in addition to that, there's this force that flows through everything that you can, use for good or for evil. So that's why, somebody who's a practitioner of Vodun and so on and so forth, the force is neutral, but the practitioner can use it for good or for evil. And I think that's kind of what he's referring to. But then coming back to your point, though, that's why it sounds so much like Star Wars, because that's that kind of pantheistic view is what George Lucas drew from quite a bit. You know what I'm saying? In terms of, as he created the whole Star Wars world, he was drawing from that. You know what I'm saying? So that's why it sounds so much the same.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Now here's where I got to ask the question.
Uh-oh.
Is Jabari then therefore a Sith practitioner?
Or a Jedi?
Because when he says he's wearing red and black to invoke Sutek, he is invoking the god of war, but that's not all. Now, the question is, which Sutek is Jabari talking about? Because there's a version of Sutek, and he knows this, where Sutek is literally the god of evil. And who does he squabble with? Horus and Osiris. Yeah. Everybody knows the story where he invites the guy over to dinner, kills him, and throws him in a coffin. Right? You know what I'm saying? Right. And in fact, there's renditions of Sutek, because I looked this up because I wanted to see about this, where he's shown as a crocodile. And there's some speculation that that might be a combination visualized of him and the original god of evil, Apep. And he's shown as a man with red hair and eyes. First of all, he sounds like a white guy right now. I'm just saying. And he's wearing his red mantle. And the reason is Egyptians thought that bright red was a color of evil. I do not understand what's happening and how in the same debate where we're talking about misogyny and all this stuff, he's going to invoke a wicked god of... See, he's not even the god of war only. He's depicted as a god of chaos and the one fighting against Ma'at.
So he was draped in Ishfat? Is that what you're saying? He was dripping with Ishfat?
And there's just some, super strange stuff on this. I mean, one of them, let me just read this. If this is not right, then I'll take it back. But sometimes I look at these summary statements. This is from ancientorigins.net. Let me just show you one. Okay, just one. Mm-hmm. The conflict between Set and Horus, that's what he's talking about. Is it the articles of Set? I'm going to say Set for now. Is a well-known ancient Egyptian myth. According to the creation myth of the great Ened of Heliopolis, Set was born of Geb and Nut, and the brother of Osiris, Isis, and Nephthys, who's also his wife. Osiris became the ruler of Egypt, and Set, who was jealous of his brother, plotted and murdered him through trickery. Although Set succeeded in killing Osiris, Isis, the wife of Osiris, managed to revive her husband with magic long enough to become pregnant with the son Horus. When Horus grew up, he took revenge upon Set, was victorious, and became the new ruler of Egypt. Now, here's what I want to read. The conflict between Horus and Set involves numerous episodes in which they sought to outdo each other. One of the most peculiar of these involved each of them trying to get their semen into their opponent. According to the myth, Set attempted to prove his dominance by seducing Horus and having sexual intercourse with him. Horus agreed to this, provided that Set gave him some of his strength. When Set ejaculated, however, Horus caught the semen in his hands and flung it into the river. Horus then placed his own semen on some lettuce. I hope he never works at Burger King. Set's favorite food, which his rival ate. Set and Horus then appeared before the other gods, during which the former asserted that his semen was in Horus and that he was therefore the victor. When the gods called Set's semen to testify, I now call Mr. Semen to the stand. They found that it was not in Horus, but in the river. Horus then claimed that his semen was in Set, and when called to give evidence, the semen duly did so. So that's the god he's calling upon?
Yeah.
The energy. It's the energy days.
He said it's the energy.
It's the energy.
Yeah.
It's keeping that same energy.
No, let's not keep that same energy, bro. Let's not keep that same energy. You're right. Y'all remember the joint, the black delegation? You know what I'm
saying?
Yeah.
Can we vote that both Horus and Seth be just out of the black community?
Yeah, they're out of here.
They're out of here.
They're gone.
We gotta go.
They're gone.
We gotta go.
Trade them for some god in Zimbabwe or something.
Basically, right. Anything but them dudes. Them dudes is suspect.
Come on, man. Like seriously. Hey, look, yo. If you got a myth You know what I'm saying? That revolves around
battle rape instead of battle rap. It was battle rape, right?
Instead of battle rap, it was battle rape.
It was battle rape.
These just got a steam battle, bro. Come on, B. What are we doing right now? If you want that to be the foundation of the black community, I'm out, bro. I'm out. I'm serious, yo. I'm out, bro. If we
I actually heard two people actually try to give a metaphysical breakdown of the contentions of Horus and Seth, because we don't properly understand it, because it's high science. You know what I mean? Right, so they try to give a metaphysical.
Hey man, come on, man.
It was fun. It was fun.
Some things you just can't even allegorize, though. Sometimes you just gotta take that LB. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, man. I mean, for real. But I mean, to your point though, like this is your man's though. This is like you draped in Sutek, bro. You went down and got the custom made velour. You got a Sutek velour on.
It looked nice. It looked nice.
Come on, man. Hey, man. I would
All I want to say is this: if he is wearing that outfit and he shows up at your barbecue, don't let him man the barbecue.
This guy's terrible.
Here we go.
It's the first and last time we'll have vocab on my channel, ladies and gentlemen. Man, this is dope. This is
wild. Like, I can't help it. I was invoking Sutek. I don't know what came over me.
He was keeping that same energy. This was great, guys. But it is now 11:44. I think it's a good time to wrap this up, because we have more coming, right? So
yeah.
You know, because we purposely held back one of the most pointed questions of the evening, which came from Mr. Coleman himself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such an amazing question that it deserves its own show.
How's that?
You know what I mean? So we definitely reserve that.
I'm looking forward to. I'm probably going to drop like a mini video on it as well. But I think it's right on time too, because we got Christmas coming up, and this is the time of year where all comedics can gather together and try to hurl and
keep that same energy.
You know what I mean? They want to bring Horus, the Horus supposed Horus Jesus connection. So we're gonna rock it out, man. We're gonna deal with that in depth. We're gonna go just point for point on the Horus Jesus connection and really break it down. I've been gathering together some notes that actually I hadn't even previously known, man. So some stuff we're gonna be able to bring out.
Nice.
Drive it home, man. But definitely y'all join me on the True ID channel, YouTube channel when we go live for that. That's gonna be
absolutely. I want to thank Vocab Malone for coming through and rocking my urban apologetic inspired t-shirts. You could definitely, looking fresh. I like that. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. You can get that and many others. I just put the link to the store in the chat. They come in hoodies, sweatshirts, coffee mugs, iPhone cases, notebook pads. So feel free to get yourself some urban apologetic gear so you can just, start a conversation by just what you're rocking. You know what I mean? So
now I'm telling you right now, bro.
Uh-oh.
The t-shirts are dope. The apparel is dope. Definitely check out BK Apologies for that. Now, this man will make a t-shirt out of anything. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? However, if I roll up on you, I see you make a t-shirt out of this Horus and Seth.
Nah, it's gonna be no Sutek gear. Nah, never.
Forever be like.
Nah, never that, bro.
Let's see, what could that be called?
Sutek wear. Sutek wear. The latest in contentions.
Oh, it could be the Sutang clan, and then
Sutang
and then you'll have the symbol of
some lettuce. Oh man.
Yo, watch the letters, B. You gotta watch
the letters. Hashtag watch the letters.
Yeah, if you go to Comedic Barbecue, watch that letters, boy.
Watch that letters, bro.
And I don't care what anyone says.
No, I don't want any toppings on that burger. You want any mayonnaise on that burger? No,
I'm good. I'm straight.
I don't care how much of anyone's strength they give me. I am not going to be seduced in such a manner.
Nah, man.
Because that's
to the dark side.
It's crazy though. He's like
super dark.
He's like, how much you got? Some of my strength. Okay. Anyways,
that's funny. But man, this has been fun. Thank you so much for being here, guys. This has been a great time. Of course, this won't be the last time we'll gather together. You know, we're gonna do one more question, and after that, let's see what the Lord gives. You know what I mean? So I know 2020 could be a very interesting year.
Oh yeah, man.
Bigger and better.
Yeah.
You know, so with that being said, you guys have any final words before we go?
Well, you mentioned. Go ahead.
No, yeah, go ahead, bro. You're the guest. You're the guest.
I was saying, you mentioned 2020. I'm still working on it, which is Cyber City Apologetics Conference.
Wow.
Which means get a lot of apologists that would be nice to fly out, but we can't. So instead, we get together on the internet. We do 2-day schedule, and we create each YouTube channel or each social media platform is essentially akin to a room, like at a conference. And then you line up all the topics, get the schedule together, and then we do a virtual online apologetics conference.
Ooh, breaking news.
I've got almost everybody said yes to the dates, but now I just got to get everyone's topics and times lined up.
Nice.
March 21st.
Well, you heard it here first, people. Breaking news. BK Apologists.
That's right.
What's it called again, sir?
I'm going with Cyber City.
Cyber City. Okay.
Yeah, because the idea is it creates community, city. Cyber, it's online.
Right.
You just say, hey, you going to the Cyber City Apologetics Conference? And then what we could do is 2020, by God's grace, I plan on every month on my channel getting a number of those kinds of apologists together to once a month do a cyber cipher. So it goes in line with it.
Nice.
And because, you have this topic and you have 4 different urban apologists. And then what I want to do, if it starts working, every now and then maybe bring in, if they're cool, one of the more mainstream apologists and see if they can get in when they're fitting on some of these topics and see how that might work and see because I think that could be interesting to do some cross exposure. But it's just all working because 2020, man, I want to really see some good things happen. I think it's like it's the year of synergy,
Yes, definitely. I definitely feel that vibe. So that's the energy we will keep.
We'll
keep that particular energy. Mr. Coleman, final words.
Yeah, just a couple words, man. Appreciate everybody for tuning in on the live chat. Definitely check us out for the next session in a minute. Check me out on True ID channel, the True ID podcast, TRUIDpodcast.com, iTunes, the whole 9. And y'all know what it is, man. Love God, love people. Take care of the things that God blesses you with.
That's what's up, people. Thank you, Mr. Coleman, Mr. Malone. This is your boy BK Apologist. We're signing off. Catch you on the flip side. Peace.
Peace.